Hi, my name is Scott Yarling. I'm a senior at Purdue University, and I'm here to show you how to make these two fire bowling effects. Alright, to get started, we are going to create a new solid. Click OK. Color does not matter. And we're going to be using a user preset by Rocketstock that creates these randomly generated flames using assets within After Effects. You can adjust the fractal size to reduce the size of the flame and change the fire density using this slider here. You can download these from rocketstock.com. It's a free download. Just click the download link and you'll receive the zip. All you need to do is drop it into your Adobe folder, After Effects 2020, user presets, and then drop the FFX file in there and refresh your effects and presets and you should be able to find it. Okay, to start from scratch, we're going to create a new solid, name it background, and that will be our background. And we'll create a second one and color it red. And this will be the glow of our fireball. So we're going to line it up to this proportional grid. Use the mask feather to get rid of that hard edge. Next we're going to work on our flames. So create a new solid. Type in fire in the effects and presets so you can drag over the preset here. We're going to reduce the fractal size and increase the fire density. We'll likely come back and mess with these a little bit more, so it's not really super important. Next we're going to pre-compose this. We'll just call it fire, and the composition can be fire background. Duplicate that. And we want to make sure that these are set to layer mode add so that we can see through them. Again, we're going to need another new solid. We'll call it fire background 2. Add the fire effect to it, and it's just important that this one's a little bit different from the other fire background, so we're making this one brighter. Pre-compose, and then we're going to mask fire background 2 about 2/3 of the way down and change the mask to subtract. This will create a glowing near the bottom of the flame because it should be brighter where it's hottest. You'll see what I mean in a second here. We're going to pre-compose those 3 layers into a new composition called fire texture, and we're going to add the CC sphere to it. Now we have something that looks similar to a fireball. Make sure that that texture is set to the add mode. If we hit play, we can see that it actually animates. This mask also should probably be feathered so it's not such a hard edge, so we're just going to do that. It also, this fire looks a little bit dense, so we're going to reduce that. That looks much better. You can kind of play with the opacity on the glow a little bit, but you'll find that a lot of this as we go is adjusting things. Okay, now we're going to do all that one more time, only we're going to do all these layers from scratch. It's important that they are separate layers, so we'll be calling it fire texture 2, and so on. Okay, now we want this fireball to kind of spawn itself from the bottom up, so we're going to create a mask on all of our base fire layers that is going to raise over the course of 2 seconds, like so. That looks pretty good, so we just want to copy that to every single fire layer that we have made so far. Next we're going to add some turbulent displace to the fire textures so that they're not perfect spheres. We want them to undulate sort of like firewood. So we're going to place this on here and set the amount to 10. And we are going to alt-click the stopwatch for evolution and put in the expression time times 20. And what this will do is, as time progresses, it will multiply that value by 20 until we get something that kind of moves along with us, and will keyframe itself as we go. That looks pretty good. Next, we're going to create a new shape layer. We're going to hit Add Ellipse. Go down to size. We will increase that a little bit. We want to sort of match up with the size of our sphere. And then we're going to go to Layer, Layer Styles, and add an inner glow to it. If we expand that drop down, we want to change the color to sort of a orange. And then from there we are going to increase the size to around 50, 45 is okay too. And this will create a orange glow. Next we're going to add our turbulent displace onto our ring here. Again, change the amount to 10. Keyframe the evolution. We're going to do time times 25. Keep it different. Recompose this, name it circle. Get that mask from our fire layer and add it on top so that it reveals itself with our fireball. Then change the mode to add, and then we have something that looks like an inner glow. We can reduce the transparency if it's too harsh. Also, do not forget to increase the ambient shading on all of our spheres to 100. Otherwise, half of our sphere will be shaded, and that doesn't make sense for something that emits light. We can also go ahead and add glow to our fire textures. We want to set the glow colors to AB, and color A to some orange and B to a red. You can mess around with these colors as you see fit, and also mess around with the threshold and the radius. These will kind of vary depending on the kind of effect you're going for. I generally just say go for what best matches your scene. It looks like our density was a little bit too high, so we're just going to reduce that. And we have something that looks pretty good. Alright, now that our fireball is ready, we are going to track the motion of our footage. Select the footage and go animate track motion. This inner box here is going to select pixels, and the outer box is going to try to find those so we can adjust those to be the proper size. Unfortunately, this orange bowling ball doesn't have a whole lot of contrast, so we're going to have to try to find a spot where his fingers meet. It's a little bit difficult here, but I think I found a good spot. This can be fixed by adding a marker or something to your ball that you're trying to track, and then masking it out later. This process can be tedious, so I sped it up a little bit. And overall looks like a pretty good track. At the end I had a little bit of a hiccup, so we're fixing that right here. Once our motion is tracked, we just simply hit Edit Target, make a null object, and select that, then hit Apply on the X and Y positions. And we can actually parent our fireball to that null object, and it will move with it. I had some extra assets on top of the fireball that I'm getting rid of here. You don't see them in the file child. Alright, now we're going to start the process of masking out the hands around the ball. So we're going to create a mask, make sure it's set to subtract, and go in with our pin and just adjust around these fingers. This will take you some time, but the final shot will look much better for it. During this I did add a blur to our fireball effect because it's way too crisp in this shot. Alright, lastly we are going to create an adjustment layer and add a glow effect to it. We're just going to tinker with that right here and add a mask around the adjustment layer so that it only affects the stuff around the ball, and this will give the ball kind of a glowing effect that will light up our actor's face. And that looks pretty good. For our next effect we are going to create another fireball. we are going to add a motion tile to this, which essentially just tiles the image on a single plane. And we can keyframe this by alt-clicking the stopwatch and hitting time times -2000, comma time times -3000. And this will essentially roll our ball. If we add a CC sphere on top of it, you can see it's rolling. So we're just going to duplicate this effect and add everything else that we've had previously on our spheres. And that looks pretty good. Alright, here we have our actual footage. So this is actually not possible to track because the orange ball has no discernible features on it. So I'm going in manually with a null object and tracing it with the center as best I can. I'm using the graph editor here, which you can see with that blue button, and adjusting the handles to get pretty close, and then going in manually and adjusting it as close as I can. We're just going to trace it as it goes down this hole. Alright, now we're going to add our fireball. And we're going to have to keyframe the size as it goes as well. It's important that we remember to turn on our motion blur with this button here, and make sure that we toggle our switches and have this box here checked. This will give the fire a much more blurry effect and will help it seem more realistic and less defined as it goes down this alley. Alright, here we can see it rolling down and hitting our pins. That looks pretty good. We did have to mask out that bar and the bowling alley so that it could actually fall down. Next we're going to create a new null object. Bring it down to our flame ball, which we've made a duplicate of. We're going to move our null object right below our bowling ball. Then we want to parent it to our flame ball. Parenting it to the flame ball will keep our null object at the base of the ball and should be right below it where it meets contact with the wood. From here we're going to take our duplicate flame ball and parent it to that null object. We will have to keyframe the position a little bit to keep it on track, but that's okay. Lastly, we're going to use our anchor point tool to move our anchor point to where it makes contact with our flame ball, and then disable the keyframes for its size since it's already gained that from the flame ball. Lastly, adjust the transparency appropriately and you have a reflection. Next we are going to remove the shadow below our ball and actually make it glow a little bit since it is on fire. We're going to create a new adjustment layer and mask out a ellipse below it and add a glow effect to that. Make sure to feather it and adjust the handles as necessary. And that looks pretty good with a couple of adjustments. Do whatever fits your scene best. Next we're going to start adding in our explosions. I have a couple here already on my computer, but you can download these online just simply by searching for them. This looks pretty good here. I've added a fire effect on the wall already. Make sure that you're using add or screen. However, this area over here is popping out too far and doesn't look realistic, like it's exploding inside the pins. So we are going to use a distortion mesh. And this basically puts a grid over your entire shot and lets you really precisely adjust how you want to warp your effect. That looks pretty good. Make sure we have our second explosion set to multiply. That looks pretty good. Let's add one last flame. Scale it down. And we're just going to add it just like we did our other first explosion. So I sped that up. And now we're going to add a reflection. We're just going to scale our y-axis and reduce the transparency. That looks pretty good. Next we'll do that for our large explosion. Create a simple mask to mask out the alley so it's not reflecting anything other than hardwood. Do it for our wall. And that looks pretty good.